God damn. All right, ladies and gentlemen, people that don't give a fuck, welcome to the show. Ryan of Bleeeeeed. Ryan, what's going on?
What's up? How you doing?
I finally got you, motherfucker.
You got me.
Finally got you.
Yeah.
Guys have been trying to make this happen for so long. I mean, you guys. So, I mean, okay, before we get into like questions and stuff, I feel like the only proper way to start this is, wow, what an album. Holy shit, you did it. You guys did it. You did it.
We did it.
I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
We did it.
So my first question for you for the show. Wow.
Good question.
I mean, this album, this is a flawless album. This is a modern classic of nu metal. It's just like an instant, just right away. Because the thing about you guys has been, you've been kicking around since like 2021. Is that correct?
2021, yeah. Really like 2020.
I remember, and I remember when right around when you guys put out Killing Time. Was that your first release, Killing Time, or?
No, the EP came out before.
Right. So the EP came out, and I remember it was right on when I was first starting up the account. People were sending it to me all the time, and I remember thinking like, well, this is friggin' incredible. And so much time went by before the album that it became like, you guys ended up with this sort of level of hype that I can only think of as like what it must have been like to follow up Life is Peachy for Korn.
Yeah.
This was like the follow the leader for our generation of nu metal, and it really paid off in such incredible ways. And I've got so many questions here, but the first thing I've got to do is just say, I think you guys are the first band ever to cite the band Low Pro as an influence.
Dude, that's crazy because like there's tons of bands that sound like that. Like they have that sound. I mean, I guess it's more so vocally driven. You know what I mean?
Well, not every band though has Pete Murray in the band.
Yeah.
Pete Murray is really singing his fucking face off with that album.
Yeah. Like that band Higher Power?
Not familiar.
So they're from the UK. We're pretty good friends with a couple of those guys, and they kind of sound like Low Pro a little bit. And they're like really the only other band that I can think of off the top of my head that like does that almost to a T. But yeah, dude, Low Pro is really important, I think, because just the melodies, you know.
Yeah,
and that's what's been so important about this band is that it's all about the melodies.
I think that the reason Low Pro struggled to find success with that album is simply because Pete Murray just sings so hard, and in kind of a genre, because they were signed to Aaron Lewis's Vanity label, which first of all, big mistake. That was never going to work. I'm sorry. But like in that realm of post-grunge, I think post-grunge singers were a lot more resigned and kind of insular and sad, whereas Pete Murray was just like emoting his fucking face off.
Yeah, it's sick.
And it's
so
really
good.
Really like revisiting that Low Pro album today, then things started to click to me in my head, because that's where I feel like you guys got a lot of inspiration, not just in the drop riffing, the heavy drop riffing, the usage of chromatic drop riffing, but also in the production, because the production on that album is really good.
Yeah, it's good. To me, it all sounds glued together real well, you know.
It's really tight. And how the fuck did you how'd you find Low Pro?
Through Ultraspank.
Just bars. This is gonna be one of those episodes where we're just throwing nu metal bands at each other for an hour. We don't
I mean, so I found Ultraspank first, you know, his first band, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is pretty sick. Ultraspank gets a little out there, you know what I mean? They get a little too wild with some of, like, sometimes it's when you're listening to Ultraspank, you really have to take the good and the kind of left of center, you know what I mean? Because they got great riffs, they got great songs, but sometimes the songs just kind of go this way, and then you're like, okay, let's bring it back to the center.
What's funny to me about Ultraspank, that'll be one of those bands people bring up as like, oh, they should have been bigger. But Ultraspank songs don't really have hooks.
No,
they have like a lot of groove. They have a cool industrial groove to
Yeah,
them.
they're hard as hell.
Yeah, and I think that first Ultra Spank album, like of a piece, is a really satisfying piece of new metal industrial. But I also have no idea what Ultra Spank song was supposed to be like the single.
Five, I guess. I
I
don't know. That was the
guess.
most. That's the most famous one. Famous is even giving it, a little bit of an overstatement. But I found Low Pro through Ultraspank because of Pete Murray, and I was like, dude, I vibe with this way more. Like this is way more up my alley. Not that I don't love Ultraspank because Ultraspank is ridiculously heavy and groovy, which is awesome. But yeah, for me, it was Low Pro. That self-titled front to back is just, especially like the song like Bombs at the end,
Yeah.
there's definitely one or two melodies that I definitely ripped in a sense
Ah,
off of
but
that
you
song.
see, but you know what's fun about that? So I think what makes exploring new metal a lot of fun is that you can find bands like that and take from those bands, and like nobody'll know. Like
Yeah,
you can't rip off a Pavement melody. But if you were to like
right.
take a lot of inspiration from a Low Pro deep cut,
Yeah,
it's like there's so much untapped creative energy in that music.
yeah,
Like
yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I'm sure you're familiar with the band Empty Shell Casing.
Yeah,
So I had them on the show, and we were talking about new metal influences, and they were like, "Well, we're kind of embarrassed to admit this, but we ripped off a lot of our sound from Guts Syndicate." And I'm like, "Guys, the band Guts Syndicate doesn't remember Guts Syndicate. Like, you are fine." That's I
yeah,
mean, I was floored that was getting name checked in front of me. I mean, it's just insane to see young talent name check bands that I thought I was the only person in the world to know. But Low Pro is just such a good reference because I mean, everything about your album is really good. And I apologize, I compared it too much to Deftones. It's not actually that Deftonesy. It's a lot more concise. It's a lot more consolidated. It's a lot more structural. It doesn't really go all the way out there in spacey weirdness. The songs are very tight focused. But the thing about your album that really took it all the way to me is it just sounds very good.
good. Thank
It
you.
sounds good, and what it is specifically about it sounds good is it sounds very crisp in a way where I could imagine hearing it on FM radio.
Yeah,
Can you speak a little bit? I'd seen another interview of yours how intense you believe in the sounds of an album, the sound when an album sounds. Can you give us some more inspirations, influences around the production of Bleed?
yeah, yeah, for sure. The sound is so important to me. I mean, I guess it kind of goes without saying if you're making an album, you want it to sound good. But like with us, we're so particular, and I don't want to call us perfectionists because sometimes things get fucked up, but we end up using it that way because it sounds better. Um, but honestly, I owe almost all the credit to Rubio because Rubio produced it with us and mixed everything. He did all of the programming minus some of the break beats and the scratches. But all the guitars he mixed. He mixed the drums. He mixed the vocals. Front to back, he mixed the entire thing. And I've talked about this a couple times. There's something to be said to working with A, someone in the band, and B, someone who's your best friend, because with Rubio, I can call Rubio and be like, this sounds like shit. This needs to change and it needs to sound exactly like this. And Rubio would be like, okay, sounds good. And then at 5 in the morning, I'll get a new mix from him, you know what I mean? And it'll be changed.
I feel like your
But
sound reminds me a lot of Howard Benson's.
yeah,
Howard
yeah,
Benson sound because Howard Benson also had this massive guitar forward sound to it that made songs like Alive by POD just feel like this overwhelming. Like I was at the library today and I was listening to your album and Through the Cylinder came on and I was on the escalator and I just started going like in dead
that's
silence.
good.
I was just like
Mission accomplished.
um now it's funny though that you mentioned because you're like of course it has to sound good, but the way good metal sounds now sounds terrible to me because it's mixed more for like Instagram reels and maybe like Octane Radio, where the guitar is a bass, the bass is a bass, the snare drum is a bass, the singer
Yeah.
is a bass. Like everything's very bassy in order to get that satisfying, like ooh, the breakdown, like whoa,
Yeah.
ooh.
Scooped mids, scooped mids were scoop mids are cool, and like we don't use a ton of mids, you know, like, but we also understand through trial and error that mids are very important. It's where you put that mid frequency with the guitars that changes everything.
Yeah, yeah. The
And
album. I mean, the album has a lot of extremely bright and fresh mids and highs to it, where the guitars all have this synesthesic sort of texture to it, like you're running your hand through like some sand. You
yeah,
you can feel the
yeah, that's awesome.
guitars going around you.
I think we finished with uh 12 rhythm tracks on every song. 12 guitar rhythm tracks.
Mm.
And they were, it was like 2 amps. It was the VHT and then it was a Marshall 800, all 12. I mean, we did like doubles set up like this, a double set up like that. And they're fine tweaks, but it was a bitch to get them where they're sitting now because there's
Right, but
just
that's
so
but
much going
see,
on.
but see, it needs to be a bitch because when
Yeah.
people send me songs and I can tell they took their guitar cable and plugged it right into the computer and ran it through a tone bank, I know that's what they did. I can tell when there's a microphone up against an amplifier. And the
Yes.
worst thing, so anyone that's a regular viewer of the show knows. Typically we don't do interviews. We do like little music reviews. People send me their songs, I'll talk about them. The number one song ruiner for me beyond anything else are MIDI drums. If you send me a
Yeah.
song and the drums are quantized and they're MIDI, just
Yeah. It's crazy.
gone. It's like not even music to me. I can't.
Yeah.
There's no swing. There's no groove. There's no rhythm. So the drums on your album are I mean, like, of course all of it is really appealing to me, but just the drums. If you were to tell me right now that those are MIDI drums, you're gonna break my heart.
No, absolutely not. Furthest thing from MIDI drums. That's Carson Wilcox.
What a god. I mean,
Yeah.
I love what he does with the ghost notes, like straight into the first song where the drums aren't just like cha cha,
Mhm.
but the snare goes ta 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 ta
Yeah.
ta. It's like
Signature.
signature, and these are the kind of things that I hear from you guys that I just don't hear enough from other. Because with a MIDI kit, you can't do that, right? Like you can't.
No.
You can program like the velocity of each note, like you can really try, but ultimately, if you snap it to a grid, I know you
Yeah.
snapped it to a grid.
Right. Right. Yeah. Our shit was not snapped to grid at all. And our shit was tracked live as far as each instrument, for
And
sure.
how do you guys do the recording? Do you record live? Do you start with the drums, go to guitar? How do you do it?
Yeah. Yeah. We usually start with the drums and we have yet with this band to do a live recording. I doubt we ever will, just because of, I don't know, we like to take our time with dubbing and stuff like that. But yeah, we start with the drums and then I can't remember if we tracked bass for, I think Rubio tracked bass in Austin like shortly after the drums so that we had some scratch guitar on there, that we had drums and then bass. And then over probably 4 or 5 sessions over like 4 months, we finished guitars all the way up until the day before we sent it off to mastering.
You know you did this. I understand you probably, guys were probably under a lot of pressure to follow up the EP because the EP was so well received and just it felt like such a moment. But you did this in a way with the luxury that new bands don't really get now, where you actually like took your time. You didn't try to like
Yeah.
rush out singles and go viral.
No.
We get one shot at this album,
Yeah.
and
And that's what we wanted it to be, an album. You know, we didn't want dude, fucking everyone just puts singles out now.
yeah, and
Everyone.
the thing about that is, it's another thing that I'm always trying to like counsel young bands about is that when you go single EP, single EP, you're betraying a certain insecurity in your own material where you're like, maybe they like this, or will they like this? Will they like this? When you go album, you're like, this, you will like this. Like,
Hmm.
here you go. We
It,
intend for this to be a full statement.
yeah, exactly. It's a full picture of what we think the band looks like and feels like and sounds like at this point in time. You know, and like you won't ever catch us doing a TikTok in the practice space thing or anything like that. Nothing against bands that do that because it does work for them, but that will never work for us. You know, we like to approach it as this is the full picture. And again, that's why like we never, I
Hold
don't
on.
even think we ever even thought about.
I need to respond to this. Morphical in chat, he says, streaming has killed the debut album. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Streaming has tricked you into thinking that the debut album is dead. And streaming wants you to release a lot of content, not music, content. It wants you to chuck a lot of content into it. But the truth of the matter is that if you really, really work hard on a debut album, people will sit and they'll listen to the whole debut album. People crave that kind of artistic integrity. Like Ryan, take Ryan here, for example, and his album, Bleed. Sorry, I had to do a tangent on that just because I feel like
No, no,
I
you're
feel
good,
like
man.
I feel like the dog is wagging, like the tail is wagging the dog for a lot of this, where we assume things are a certain way, and it's like, no, you're conditioned to believe that because these platforms want content out of you, not music. They want you to create content.
Yes, yes, 100%. And that's the thing. And like I was gonna say, we never even pitched to each other that, oh, let's just do a single or like let's post some reels. And we've talked to like some people in like management before, and they've been like, it would be awesome if you guys could like, do like get on TikTok. I know you guys don't want to, but it's whatever was. And I'm like, fuck that, dude. I never want to be a TikTok band or an Instagram reel band. Now those things are important in 2025. I totally understand that, but for us it just doesn't work.
There's something to be said about creating a work of art, standing by that work of art, and then letting your audience come to you instead of aggressively trying to get to them.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's kind of icky.
So So, I, now I know professionally, legally, you're not allowed to say you're a new metal band. I understand this. I've done this long enough. But what is your relationship like to the genre of new metal?
I think when Bleach started, new metal wasn't even really in our vocabulary as far as the band goes. We grew up on new metal, Korn, Linkin Park, and Slipknot, and all those ones, right? But as time progressed and the first record came out, um, we started to want to talk about pushing the envelope with the new stuff, after Killing Time single and when we were talking about the LP. We wanted to tune down, we wanted to get heavier. We didn't want to write, you know, breakdowns necessarily, but we were exploring the ideas of how can we make this more extreme and heavier and darker and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
because the
if that
album
makes
doesn't
sense.
have breakdowns; it has bridges. It has middle eights, right?
Yeah.
You're not.
Yep.
The songs don't just come to a halt, and you're like, "Punch your fucking mom."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the songs
Yeah.
have that ebb and flow, the whirlpools, the riptides, the tidal waves to surge you into each other part of the song. So you're never like stopping and just being like, "Who's ready for a breakdown?"
Right. Yeah. And I just kind of call them transitions, and like a transitional part, how do we resolve, this chorus and this whole first three quarters of the song and make it heavier
Right.
before we go back to the chorus? You know what I mean?
And it's just super melodically rewarding. You use this like a melodic trick that never gets old. I never gets old. Where you play a drop chord and then you add a third,
Yeah.
like it just adds that little bit of melody to the drop chord. I think it's like the first major chord on the album, going out from the intro. What's the first song called again?
Climbing down.
Climbing Down. Yeah, the first like major chord of Climbing Down, where it hits that sub bass, gets that sub bass punch too, and it goes with a big, and it's just like.
Hmm.
But as for
Yeah.
the new metal connection goes, you're a band to this day. I'll post your music or I'll post about you guys, and people will say like Bleed is not a new metal band. And my
Yeah.
response to this so far has been, I want you to go to the debut album right now. I want you to put it in your CD player, put it on your headphones, hit play. Tell me the exact amount of seconds that pass before you hear a turntable. Tell me
Yeah.
exactly how many seconds it takes before you hear a DJ.
Yeah. It's probably like 6 or 7
like
seconds.
get the fuck out of here. I want to ask you. Actually, I want to ask you something. Why do you think there's this desperate need for people to take their bands that they like and remove them from nu metal? Why is Bleed not allowed to be a nu metal band?
Because we predominantly sing. I don't really know. And honestly, I don't really care. Like you can, if people want to call us new metal, that's totally cool. Because to them, it's new metal, and that's pretty cool.
Well, but
But
what would you rather be? Would you rather be nu metal or new gaze?
not new gays.
See, this is what I mean. Where you're familiar with the band Chat Pile, right?
Yeah,
Chat Pile, we're friends. We talk a lot, and it'll come up where like I'll be kind of badgering them about how they're nu metal, and then they'll do that little dance around it, and I'll say, well, what would you rather be? Would you rather be noise rock or nu metal? I'm like, well, I'd rather be nu metal, because
yeah.
there's such a greater identity to the nu metal branding. Where like with you guys in particular, I think people are more willing to be like, oh, they're alternative metal. What does that mean? Like,
Alternative metal
what's
is we made a shirt one time that said alternative metal, and we put a registered trademark at the end because to us, I think like alternative metal is kind of exactly what I envision as our band. If I had to put our band in one genre, gun to my head, it would be alternative metal, I think.
this is the meanest thing a guest on my show has ever said to me. You are breaking my heart. Why would you? I feel like alternative metal is the coward's new metal. It is literally
That's fine.
it is literally like where you put bands so you don't have to like a new metal band.
But even then, like the term alternative metal, people forget about it because right now
I do my best. You're right. I do. I try.
you're either now you're new metal or new gaze or just shoegaze. You know what I mean? There's this huge obsession with shoegaze, and but in reality, people, I don't want to say everyone, I don't want to generalize, but a lot of people don't understand what shoegaze even is at
Okay.
all.
Will you grant me this indulgence?
Sure. Yeah.
My definition of new metal has always been any combination of alternative funk, rap, industrial metal stylings with a heavy emphasis on pop songwriting. Because what I think that new metal always
Yeah.
did that any other genre of metal did not nearly do as well was write pop songs. And part of what incorporates your album into the lineage of new metal, one, not just like the turntables, the aggressive drop tune riffage, but you are writing pop songs. Every
Yeah.
song has a strong melody, chorus, hook, verse, bridge. It's all a very cohesive statement. You're not doing like 10-minute genre explorations or anything like
No.
that. Like you guys are writing concise pop songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's like always been the game plan. Like, and that's just how I write music. It's like verse, chorus, bridge, resolve, you know. And that's just how I've learned to write music. That's how I learned on Hybrid Theory and Meteora, because that's exactly how those records were
Oh yeah.
written. And those were absolute foundational records for me when it comes to songwriting.
The
So,
the comments are calling you black gaze. Black gaze.
what's Black
I have
Gaze?
no idea and I don't want to know, so I'm gonna look away from that. But I do got to give a shout out to Rowboat Miami, who was the first one to bring you guys to my attention and just
Cleo.
relentlessly talked about how great you guys were. So
Cleo
salute.
did the drop or the break beat on Through the Cylinder.
Really?
That's Cleo, yeah.
Oh man, Cleo in this bitch. What's up? That's so
Killed
fire.
it.
That's so
Very
fire. I love
important.
this. I love this. Oh man, that's so cool. All right. Well, I do. The thing. I mean, I take it very personally when our bands are desperately tried to be classified away from new metal. And your Wikipedia page is just another example of like they're fighting for their lives to not call you new metal. It's like at the very end, and it's like again, I guess some might refer
Yes,
to this
new metal.
band. Do me just this favor? Is Bleed a new metal band?
Sure. Yeah.
Can you just say
Yeah.
yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Fine. All right. It's fine. You really gotta. I mean, I feel like you can't say it because if you say it, your career is over. Like you have to just keep this at arm's length. Keep this at arm's length.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I there's definitely been like there were some songs that got thrown out when we were writing the record that were pretty damn new metal, but it didn't fit with the flow. Will they come back on LP2? Probably in some form or way.
This is the meanest in it. Oh wow. All right. Well, you can always leak those to me. If you wanted to. So another band that you've name checked that really had me head over heels was you guys are fans of Nothing Face.
Yeah.
Woo! Wow.
Big fans of
Okay.
Nothing
Okay.
Face.
Okay. Skeletons or Violence?
Violence.
No, Skeletons.
Skeletons is good, but I have to say Violence because I have the poster framed right here and I'm looking at it, so I gotta say it.
And you know
And it
what
was a
else?
gift.
You know what else? You guys definitely pull more from the violent side of things. Where, like, what I think Nothing Face did, especially their guitarists, they have some of the best down picking in all of
Dude.
metal. Those riffs are just obliterating because
Yeah.
he's not doing any up strumming.
It was crazy. Like that song Piss and Vinegar.
Fucking
Crazy.
hell.
It's one of Violence by Nothing Face is one of the most aggressive records I've ever listened to.
Yeah, it always feels like it is falling down on top of you. It feels as if
Yes.
it's like a bookshelf.
Tramples you.
Yeah, coming down on you, and it's one of those many new metal records that got lost in the shuffle of its time. But if you talk to the right people, they'll be the ones to tell you like, it's a classic. This is
Yes,
a
and you know,
classic.
to go back to Bleed being a new metal band, I think this is a good point because everything we just said about that record and how it feels, I think that to me is how Bleed can be classified as new metal because those records have made me feel a certain way, and there's parts of the LP that make me feel like that. You know what I mean? It's that new metal feeling, and it's like a new metal perspective rather than actually defined black and white new metal. You know what I
It
mean?
can be tough to put your finger on exactly what it means. People want to talk about
Yeah.
DJs, people want to talk about rapping, but to me, it has always been like you're combining elements of funk, industrial, groove, rap, metal, and you are focused primarily on writing pop songs because that is a thread
Yeah.
that goes through every new metal bands. They were all trying to write pop songs. And I think what it is about an album like Nothing Face or Low Pro that would speak to you is that those albums were released under the expectation that they would be like gold records.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the era. It was like, of course this will go platinum, which
Right.
that's not a thing now.
Right.
You know?
No, absolutely not. I mean, shit, I don't know. I guess if you have a reverb pedal now, you think you can go platinum.
Well, it's really astounding to imagine. Violence by Nothing Face sold around like 100,000 copies in the United States, which was considered a massive embarrassment for TVT Records. Imagine Bleed sells 100,000 copies.
Dude, that'd be crazy. I saw the pre-order numbers and they're not even a fraction of those. But could you imagine in 2025
100,000
selling
copies?
physical? That means you pressed physical copies, 100,000 physical copies plus.
Yeah,
That's crazy to me.
and that's
Huge numbers.
and at the time, total failure, like unacceptable
Yeah.
failure. And I just
Isn't that nuts?
But isn't that? But also at the same time, I think part of being into new metal and aspiring to make new metal is aspiring to be commercially successful, and not accepting a reduced, like a reduced ceiling of what's possible with your music. Because now I think that most musicians now are like, it would be really cool to have health insurance. Whereas in 2000 or 1999, it was like, I'm going to have a second house.
Right.
And I want
Yeah.
to give that level of ambition back to young bands. Like, it can be done. It can be done. Why the fuck
Yeah.
not?
Absolutely. Look, Knock Loose. Look at Knock Loose.
It can be done.
It's like a perfect example of breaking the mold and breaking through the ceiling that was predetermined already.
Yeah.
And that band deserves everything that they get.
Yeah.
I mean, the high respect for that band because they work
Absolutely.
their ass off and they break walls down and they make a lot of money.
And they're new metal.
And they're pretty fucking new metal.
A
Yeah,
single
for sure.
called Suffocate. They toured with Slipknot. They got look, the new metal allegations
Yeah.
are whooping their ass. And
Yeah.
if they're watching somehow, come on the show, make it official.
I saw them on that Slipknot tour.
I did too. They were ridiculous.
They blew Slipknot out of the water.
Oh, I don't know about that. I thought
They did
Slipknot.
for sure.
You're talking
I
about
thought.
the self-titled anniversary tour, right?
Yes.
I thought Slipknot were extraordinary. Like
They were good.
one of the most radical stadium shows I've ever seen, where they close with scissors in a stadium. They close with scissors, leave, no encore.
I know.
I was like, fuck yes. This
Yeah,
like
it was good.
that was what I wanted so bad. Like to see that. Like they were so on fire. They didn't even do the like everyone get down on the ground for Spit It Out. They just fucking
Yeah.
obliterated every song after song after song. And their new drummer, I mean, is extraordinary.
Eloy, yeah,
Oh
he's a
my,
menace.
oh my god! It was like watching, like being in the stadium watching him perform. It was like getting hit in the face.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
It was.
and
That was a good pairing between Knocked Loose and them, for sure.
yeah, and Eloy's presence in the band though makes me optimistic for the next album. I feel like he's the
Yeah.
drummer that they needed, someone that can take charge.
Yes. Absolutely. And played Joey Jordison's parts, but maybe a little bit harder.
That is the thing. I
Maybe.
mean, that is the thing about Eloy is he's powerful. He's
Dude, yeah.
powerful. Like Joey is peerlessly creative. Joey was peerlessly creative. He was unbelievably
Yes.
creative. But Eloy's hitting is just it's like
Dude,
knocks your eyeballs out of your sockets.
heavyweight for real. It's
So
crazy. Every single hit is nuts.
I'm putting the energy out there though that I want Corey and Clown whenever they go into this next album, Corey and Clown just take a back seat for a second. Let Eloy make some creative decisions. Watch what happens.
Yeah. Eloy and Mick make some decisions because
Please.
those
So
are the ones that will write it.
So some other bands that come to mind though, listening to your record, especially today, I get a lot of Trust Company from you guys.
Yeah, we get that a lot.
Not just in the
Trust Company.
because Trust Company are like a secret, original like new gaze band. They did that a lot. If you listen to like the deep cuts on the Lonely Position of Neutral, they do a lot of that where they use big chords in ways that are like really overwhelming, skyscraping chords, huge hooks, but also the lyrical content. A lot of Trust Company songs, basically all of Trust Company songs, are about like the interrogation of self, trying to understand what's going on inside and work through those issues. And the first lyric on your album is making time to find myself. And a lot of the lyrics that follow that are of that same sort of self-interrogation. You're not lashing out at other people. You're not upset at the world. You're kind of trying to do a personal exploration. Can you speak a little to the lyrical content of your songs?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a perfect way to put it. The record's very introspective, and predominantly all the music I've ever written and probably will ever write is just an internal exploration. And I use, I think like everyone I play music with, we use music as a form of expression. And I think that looking inward, there's so much I could write about, you know what I mean? Because I'm not going to spend time writing music about things that are important to me about other people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I have a lot to look inward on and figure out for myself, and music helps with that. Writing the lyrics helps with that.
It's very meditative. It's an album to put on. It's almost like a peaceful record. Like the songs, of course, the songs are fucking heavy and they riff hard as hell.
Mm.
But the singing and the lyrics have a meditative quality where you can imagine yourself alone, like in the backseat of a minivan or something, looking out the window, right? And just kind of letting the music override your thoughts. And you're not stressed
Yeah,
out. You're not anxious. You're just letting the music take the place of all that.
that's good. That's a great compliment to me because that's how I grew up for, my first 25 years.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, I think that all of that is really cool. Someone in the chat earlier was like, crossfade influence.
I wouldn't say influence, but respect.
I could see you guys writing a real post grunge banger single later on, but not yet.
Have you listened to that Crossfade record like front to back?
It's all right.
It's got some moments for
It's
sure.
definitely got moments. I like when they let the other guy rap. I think that's a cool change of pace. It has a big go breakdown, which will always sell me. In fact, I feel like you guys could use a go or two. Like you guys need to
Yeah.
go.
Well, yeah.
You do have one breakdown in there where someone goes fall and the breakdown hits, right?
Yeah, he says fuck. Yeah, he
Oh, he
says
says
fuck.
fuck. I wanted
Yeah.
that to be fall. All
Fall
right.
is cool. I use fall on like every song though.
So you guys did a track on here with Static Dress.
Yeah.
Static Dress, also one of the most inspiring, creative young bands out there right now. How did you guys get connected?
Honestly, Ollie reached out to us a couple years ago and was like, told us how he was a big fan. We chatted it up a little bit here and there, and like he ended up inviting us to come out to LA. They did a one-off at Chain Reaction before Sick New World a couple years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and so he wanted us to come play. So we flew out and played it and met him and hung out. Ollie is one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life, and a Static Dress, very inspirational, very very good band. Um, and so just talking back and forth over the last couple of years, we knew that we wanted a guest spot on one of the songs. We didn't even know which song. Um, and it was kind of unanimous. We're like, yeah, let's ask Ollie if he would do it. And he was like, absolutely. And the first, like what he sent back was like his first try is what's on the record pretty much.
And
He
he
absolutely understood it.
he expresses the lashing out, the anger and hatred that you don't. You're very restrained. Your presence on the album is very restrained, whereas his is actually like aggressive, and then it sort of
Yeah.
all draws back into you. It's very much. It's kind of like Akira, where the movie Akira, where Tetsuo is trying to fight the mutations away. Ollie's like your mutation, like escaping your body for a second.
Yeah. That's what made it work really, really well because it was such a contrast, but also he sings a little bit on it. So it's like there is that kind of like ethereal singing element, but then he also screams a little bit and he's way more aggressive than I am. So it worked perfectly.
Did you when I review I did like a write up. It's really how this connection came out. I did a write up of the album for our Instagram page, and I compared you guys to Un Loco. You familiar with
Never heard
them?
of them.
Never heard of them?
No. Un
Oh
Loca?
man, that first album of theirs is it's gonna be a favorite of yours. When
Really?
you get around to that, their album Healing, you're gonna be like, holy shit. Because I
It's a
mean,
sick name for an album. Healing.
yeah, you really gotta
That's
check that
sick.
out. But what are some other like off the grid new metal bands that you find to be inspirational?
We talked about Ultra Spank. We talked about Low Pro. A lot of people don't know Low Pro.
No,
Nothing Face, obviously. Um, Prefix. Have you heard of Prefix?
you got me. You got me. No.
Prefix is pretty good. They're almost like hairline metalcore, but they have like some
I'll be
some really
I'll be the
melodic
judge of
melodic
that.
parts. I think they have one record on Spotify. Um, but outside of that, dude, like Low Pro was like probably the biggest uh like pound for pound new metal inspiration. Outside of that, it's
They know Design 19.
design. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
Cleo
god.
Cleo showed us that band.
And then
Yeah, Design 19 is
I
sick.
I do that too, where I'll meet kids that are in bands and they're influenced by like Deftones, and I'll be like, "You've got to fucking hear this album because it is like the
Yeah,
best white pony worship ever."
yeah. It's pretty good.
And
Plus it's like recorded kind of bad, so it sounds good.
it is extremely extremely an album too, where if it came out yesterday, they'd be huge,
Yeah, no shit.
massive.
That's a good point. But
You know,
outside of those though, the first two Linkin Park records.
and Chevelle.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fine with saying that like Chevelle definitely has a little bit of a presence when it comes to inspiration. I think it's just the fact that Chevelle was like one of the first bands in the mid 2000s to kind of break the inner mold of new metal because like they aren't necessarily new metal, but they're like so melodic but so heavy
Yeah,
with
they're a band that I would not necessarily clarify like define exclusively as a new metal band, but they have enough. Well, for one thing, like I do include them just because I like telling people about them. So like
Yeah.
I play with a very I play really fast and loose with it, mostly so I can just tell people about all these bands that I love. But also like they wrote songs about suffocating and stuff, and played in drop B and looked
They're
vaguely
all,
upwards in their
yeah.
music videos. Like at some point, you just have to accept it. Where did you grow up?
A little bit outside Dallas in a town called Plano, Texas.
What was your town's alternative radio station?
102.1 The Edge.
And what were the songs you remember hearing on there the most?
Yeah.
How old are you?
32.
30 something kings in this bitch. 30 something kings. I'm 32 as well. So do you
Awesome.
remember hearing Poem by Taproot on the radio?
Probably. Yeah. I would imagine so.
Or what about Bottom of a Bottle by Smile Empty Soul?
Yes. Smile Empty Soul rocks.
They that
Silhouettes.
that first album, lost classic. Hidden
Dude,
gem.
yeah. Yeah. I remember watching the music video for Silhouettes at my dad's house and being like, that acoustic guitar sounds so insane. It sounds huge. And then it like gets heavy at the end and they're like stomping and shit. I'm like, this
It
shit is
it
badass.
never ceases to bother me that bands like Puddle of Mud or Seether blew up, whereas Seether and Puddle of Mud blew up by ripping off "Come as You Are" over and over and over and over. Whereas I feel like
100%.
Smile Empty Soul, those guys sound to me like fans of In Utero. Like their singer,
Yeah.
the singer Sean Danielson was really pushing his voice to some serious
Hmm.
extremes on that album, and it's got some great deep cuts. And they really didn't. They did not get their due, and I know that because you can't even stream that album.
Yeah, I know. I've looked it up multiple times.
Like
You can't.
the fucking disrespect we put up with our genre. It's a gold
Yeah.
album, and you can't. It's just vanished,
Maybe they're like, wipe it off the face of the earth.
which is a shame because
Which
it's a minor classic.
respect though.
It's a great
Respect if
album.
they said that, you know? Yeah.
But yeah, so me being 32, you being 32 means we have those childhood memories of rock and metal groups being on top of the world. But then by the
Yeah.
time like we came of age and maybe we like came into our own like in our 20s, that wasn't true anymore. Like we remember it
No.
being true and then it wasn't. So it's cool though because we're really the ones to be like we can do that again. I remember
Yeah.
when that was true. So we're just gonna be ambitious and fuck you if you don't believe in us.
Yeah, I think the world is turning on purpose because like when we were in our 20s, it was like Lana Del Rey and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like these female larger than life singers and stuff like that. And I think now, thanks to honestly bands like Knocked Loose, bands like Turnstile, aggressive, alternative, heavy music is in the forefront, or at least moving to it.
Well, but before them, I remember the bands that started to poke through and like break down my personal walls was Balance and Composure.
Yeah.
They were one of the first bands to do like a Deftones influence way before anyone else cared about that. And then I have to give shout out to My Ticket Home, who
Yeah.
crafted like the greatest new metal album of the 2010s with Strangers Only. Like they were, and when I talked to their lead singer, he told me he was like that album flopped. That album did really bad, and I mean that's kind of the disrespect of trying to do something that isn't Bring Me the Horizon Part 3.
Yeah. Pioneering. Yes. Yeah, that record, the comments, I mean, it's like every day people are like, "Oh, this band sounds like My Ticket Home," which is super cool because that band
Right?
sounds really good.
It's like
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's a good band.
If people were coming up to you and being like, "You guys sound like Sleep Token," then you'd be like, "Oh no, yo, we are fucking up."
Yeah. We listened to Sleep Token for the first time in the van on tour. Is pretty interesting.
It's curious.
That's a nice way to put it.
It's not for me,
Not for me either.
but if that's if you're into metal that does not sound anything like metal, it sounds like background music for a Netflix original movie.
Yeah, it kind of does. It's just it makes no sense to me. Like the riffs and the singing and the other shit going on, just it the math doesn't math.
It sounds like content creation.
It sounds like AI.
It sounds like AI. It does sound a lot like AI. It sounds like, I don't know. I don't like that. I really don't like that band. And I don't like how much oxygen they take up. And I really, really don't like how magazines and publications like Kerrang and Revolver, instead of putting guys like you on the cover, they have to put Sleep Token on the cover over and over and over because they can't lose
Yeah.
access. They can't lose access to them.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's interesting.
Well, but like, hold on. That's not the direction. That's not the direction we should take this. People love music. If you love music, love music. I want to talk a little bit about the Texas new metal scene right now because the new metal in Texas is thriving. You guys have some great bands down there. Omerta,
Mhm.
Empty Shell Casing, My Friend Emotional Zan, DGMA. There's like a lot of really potent energy coming out of Texas right now. Are there any others that you guys are friends with down there?
Um, it's interesting. We're a bit older than all those people. Um, so we don't necessarily cross paths much. I think we're kind of in a little bit separate lanes, but all those bands are pretty important because they are kind of resurfacing new metal, and they're doing more than probably any other state, I'd imagine,
And
for
I think
sure.
that I think that when you say new metal, when you call these bands new metal, call yourselves new metal, a good way to think about that term is um, ambitiously accessible heavy music. Is how I think of it a lot of the time. Bands that don't make excuses for themselves. Bands that are like, you know what? Maybe we'll have a number one album. We're gonna write music like we're gonna be a number one band.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that
that's,
is
that's a good point.
I think that's what unites all those bands that I just listed with you guys is that you're all very ambitious. You're not accepting smaller margins and reduced budgets. You're all like, we're going for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of going for it, are you guys full time musicians or who's got day jobs?
We all do. Well,
Uh,
well, I do. I have a career, and a couple of us still have jobs. Two of us play in that band Narrowhead, so they're full-time music with Narrowhead and Bleed. So I don't know. I don't know if the plunge will ever happen. We'll
21,
see.
21 years ago, Warner Brothers would have been like, here's $200,000.
I know.
If they had heard your album, they'd have been like, here's $500,000 and you don't have to pay it back to us. Just here you go. And your first music video would have been by Mark Webb, and it would have cost 500 grand. And like that the industry machinations like that just aren't around anymore. That being said, I'm sure you've picked up some interest from some higher powers, right?
Yeah, yeah, we've talked to a couple people in a couple different lanes. We're pretty stoked with 20 Buck Spin right now, just because Dave is so fun to work with, and he's a wealth of knowledge. The guy's been doing records, even though it's, predominantly death metal and death metal and like
You almost
black
said it.
metal,
He
stuff
almost
like
said it.
that. I
Everyone heard
did.
him almost say
I
it.
did almost say it. You caught me.
The
That's funny. But
new
he's been
metal
doing that
agenda
stuff
is
for,
cannot be
yeah.
stopped.
It can't. He's been doing that shit for like almost 30 years. So like the guy's put out records. He knows what works and what doesn't. And he's so accessible and so easy to talk to and so just go with the flow. It's been such a great experience working with him. That being said, I mean, I don't necessarily know what the future holds as far as labels or, we're talking to like some management and stuff like that, but we'll see.
Within the next year, you will all be doing this full time.
We'll see, maybe.
No,
That'd be crazy.
no. You will all be doing it within the next year. You'll all be doing this full time. I really don't have any doubt about it. I've heard the album. I hear the
Yeah.
album. Like I know what you guys have, and it's a very rare quality to be able to write songs that are up to par like this. You will all be full time musicians in the next year.
Write it down.
Unless you just totally fuck this up. I don't know. Like I get off the call and you like go on a killing spree or something, and it's like, oh well, I was wrong about that. I guess. Whoops. Who thought he had it
I
in
don't
him?
have any plans. I don't have any plans to do that. So
I just have so
we'll
first of
see.
all, I would like to solicit the chat room if you guys have some questions. I would like for you to submit those now. I'm gonna get with one of mine though. Where did the inspiration come from to add a turntable to some of your music?
Um, we were throwing the idea around like for a while. We're like, we got to put it at least one place on the record. And our friend Shannon, he did the turntables. Basically, Rubio just sent him the entire record and was like, Put turntables over everything that you think should have turntables.
So there's another version of the album with like triple the turntables.
Yeah, yeah. I've never even heard it. I think Rubio just kept it for himself. That'd
Let me release like a version. Like,
be crazy.
okay, I'm gonna let this one go. I'm gonna let this one go, but it's pretty fucking awesome. I got an all caps question down here. I'll read it the way it's written. How did they start working with Frank Maddox?
I emailed him.
Also, chat, drop hashtag release the turntable cut right now. I want to see some hashtag release the turntable cuts in chat. Okay. First of all, introduce me to Frank Maddox. Who is that?
Frank Maddox he did Hybrid Theory art concept, Meteora. He did Saturday Night Wrist art
And he
concept. He
did
did, yeah, he did both records. Actually, all three releases.
what? How did I
Yeah,
not know this? I'm truly being caught with my pants down right now. That is fucking incredible. So you just emailed him
he's a
and
legend.
yeah.
Yeah, dude. So I had one mutual friend. He had met Jacob from Narrowhead before, and I think when we were talking about the first EP and about art, we had no idea. I'm not like an art guy. So I had no ideas or anything like that. And so we figured out that like we got Frank's email address somehow, and I hit him up and I sent him the songs, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it." And so
You
he
just
did
do it
that
for the
one.
love?
Yeah, I mean, of course we paid him,
Okay. Well,
but yeah, of course. Um, so he did that, and he did the Killing Time release, and then he did the entire art concept for this one.
that's extraordinary. And really, you know what, kids, if you're listening at home, sometimes you just got to go for it. That's, you
Dude,
can't wait.
yeah,
You can't wait for it to
hit him up,
happen. Just get out there and go. You'd be
hit him up.
surprised. You'd be surprised. Um,
Yeah,
Turntables live, please. Oh, do you guys not do the turntables in concert yet?
we run tracks um
Mm.
with the turntables on them. Maybe we'll get a six member sometime. I don't know.
So you were just here in LA, right?
Yeah, yeah, we played Midnight Hour and then we played Chain.
For context, to everyone at home, I asked Ryan if I could be put on guest list, and Ryan went, "We don't know each other like that. Fuck off." I'm quoting.
It's funny.
No
Sorry,
denial,
dude.
no denial. It's all right, it's all right. But next time you're here, you'll be headliners. So that will be the time to link up. Okay, let me see if I missed anyone's questions in here. Will Bleed ever play with the Temple of Angels again? Is that like a cult or?
I don't even think they're a band anymore. Temple of Angels.
What does
I think Bree primarily does Crush now.
what does Ryan think of Shift?
Shift is good.
Just
I haven't listened to Shift in a long time.
is that another band? Is that a newer band or?
Yeah. Yeah, Shift is a band.
Wait, this is good. I gotta go back and find this. Um, while I'm looking for this, do you like the band Catherine Wheel?
I love Catherine Wheel.
That was another band that you guys reminded me of. Was Catherine Wheel? When people talk about shoegaze, they don't think about the right bands because Catherine Wheel
No.
never comes up. But in every heavy band today that takes a lot of influence from shoegaze, I'm always thinking like this sounds like Catherine Wheel,
Yeah.
and it's always hum, right? It stops at hum.
Yeah, it does. I think the songwriting was way more technical with Catherine Wheel. They're like the most technical shoegaze band in my
Well,
opinion,
but like,
alternative.
and they were very poppy, like
Yeah,
Crank,
alternative as hell. Yeah.
bro, Crank.
Yeah. Strange Fruit, all those.
Like they were writing hits, they were writing bangers,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that Catherine Wheel should come up more often as a an influence for shoegazy influenced metal bands. Which, by the way, for anyone listening at home, shoegaze is not a bad word by any definition. I just personally have an issue with it because wonderful bands like Bleed here, whose songs have DJs and no rap breakdowns, but maybe someday, it feels like new gaze is the latest thing to snatch bands like his from from our wonderful home of new metal. I do think that's about wrapping up. I'm going to. What did you think of the small concert at Kilby Court in Salt Lake City?
It was good. It was crazy. I mean, it's a small room. It's a good show.
I'm gonna use this is my last question. When is Bleed gonna make Noah start rapping?
I don't know. I feel like if I gave him the mic, he would he would be down probably.
That's extraordinary. That for every time the word shoegaze has been mentioned in this stream, I've never once commented on the fact that you have a Loveless poster right
Yeah,
behind you. What's
I
flanking that?
do.
What's flanking that on either side?
Um, you'd prefer an astronaut and then a little typo negative banger.
Dear God, just that's your North Star right over there. What
Yeah,
kind of
a little bit.
guitar? What kind of guitar do you play?
ESP or LTD.
Jazzmaster?
No, it's a LTD MH 1000. Basically like a Horizon M8, LTD.
Well, I'm not the most technical guy in the world, but I do want to ask this too because I feel like all of these songs would be very fun to play along to. What tunings are on the new album?
Drop B. It's all in drop B.
Woo! Okay, so now you cannot deny the Chevelle allegations. Like that's people associate Drop B with Slipknot. I think Chevelle is like the Drop B band in my mind.
Yeah. And they were the first ones really to me where they like had, Pete's vocals on top,
I
over
actually
like on top of drop B.
I actually just got the bug to play guitar again for the first time. This is an LTD Viper baritone guitar, and
Perfect.
this thing just lives in drop B. So after we're done here,
Yeah.
I might have to fire up your album again and see if I can figure it out.
Yeah.
We could just tab it out right now over Zoom. You could be like 1 1 1 1 4 4 5 4 5 4 5 0.
Open. Open, open, open.
Open, 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 open. Palm mute, palm mute, palm mute. Oh,
Yeah.
and then of course, oh my God, I'd be so remiss not to mention this. Touch harmonics.
Yeah.
That album's got some fire touch harmonics on it.
Yeah. It's been a thing for a long time with us, I guess.
Well,
They're just fun to play.
they're really fun to play. They have an incredible sound, and I think that of all of our bands, like Linkin Park, were body bagging those touch harmonics. They have
Yes.
some of the
They were body bagging everything, dude. Like they laid, I mean, I can't say it enough. I know I talk about it a lot, but they laid the foundation, dude, for so much. It's
Do you
crazy.
want to hear
I'm a
my
fanboy, I
do
guess.
you want to hear my big theory about the hybrid theory effect? In my opinion, hybrid theory was so good it ruined rock music because there was no way to improve upon what it did. So it was so massive that all these bands tried to imitate it, but you couldn't top it. There's no way to actually like top hybrid theory.
No.
Like Metallica's Black Album, you could do better than that. Appetite for Destruction, like you can improve
Yeah.
on that. You could improve on like Hysteria. You can improve on Back in Black. But Hybrid Theory, it's like perfect.
Yeah. And I was listening to it today and like I hear new things every time I listen to it. And I've been listening to that record for 25 years.
Have you ever seen there's an interview with Mike Shinoda where Mike Shinoda says when they were mixing and mastering Hybrid Theory, he would A-B it with The Shape of Punk to Come by Refused.
Really?
In order, he's like, it needs to sound as good as that. And he said, without Refused, there is no Linkin Park.
Wow.
And
That's
so
interesting.
I think that's super compelling because it's like he's like imagine doing The Shape of Punk to Come, but with a DJ, samples,
Yeah.
breaks,
In,
turntables,
In
and a
Chester
rapper,
Bennington
and
and
like but
rapping.
like
Yeah.
cramming all of that into the same super compressed, super well mixed mastered package, and like they pulled it off
Yeah.
on a
Perfectly.
debut.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. It is a perfect record front to back. And I feel the same way about Meteora. A lot of people don't really fuck with all the songs on Meteora, but I think it's perfect front to back.
I don't like From the Inside. I think ballads not their strong
Really?
suit, and I also think
Come
Nobody's
on.
Listening is annoying
I can see where you're coming from.
because
But you
nobody's
like Easier to Run, right? And Breaking the
break.
Habit.
Okay, now hold on. Breaking the Habit is a masterpiece. Is a classic. Is a super huge
So
classic.
good.
But when they were doing songs like Easier to Run and From the Inside and Nobody's Listening, it sounded too much like other bands It felt like they weren't doing what they did perfectly. Whereas like on that album though, like Don't Stay, like fuck. Oh,
Unbelievable.
and the other problem, but I think the biggest problem with Meteora, it's not mixed very well.
Really? I think it sounds
Dude,
great.
they tipped way too far over into the no bass at all FM AM radio mixing, and to me,
Yeah, I
to
get it. There's
to
not a ton of bass on Hybrid Theory though.
there's enough. There's enough. Hybrid Theory
Yeah.
has a mix where, like, the thing I've always felt about Hybrid Theories is that you can turn that album up as loud as you want it to be, and it'll just sound better and better. Whereas
Yes.
with Meteora, it starts to fizzle and dissolve the louder it goes. It just there's
Yeah.
not enough. There's not enough of an underpinning. But honestly, like this is a discussion that we can only have because Linkin Park were so good and Meteora is so good. Like I grade them on a
Yes.
very high curve. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We talk about it all the time between Hybrid Theory and Meteora. Like we talk about how Hybrid Theory laid the groundwork for Meteora. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And then
That's the way I look at it.
and like with Hybrid Theory and Meteora, Linkin Park weren't just competing with the pop acts of the time. They were defeating them.
Oh
They
yeah.
were ethering like the Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or Britney Spears. Linkin Park was body bagging those guys.
Yeah, just watch Live in Texas.
Yeah, and it's just well, no, don't watch
It's
Live in Texas. That's a weird. That's a weird
the
concert.
show.
It's weird because they're opening for Metallica, and I don't feel like Linkin
So
Park.
big though. They
It's
were like
it's
bigger
massive.
than Metallica. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I've always found it weird though, because I feel like the energy in that crowd is very much like fuck these guys. You know what? Okay. Well, we're getting a little too esoteric now. This is kind of becoming like a podcast episode, which I'll bully you on getting on later. I know you got to wrap it up though. So before we're done here though, I just wanted to say as deeply as I can from the bottom of my heart, I wanted to thank you for your contributions to music, your contributions to this music that I've built my entire life around, the genre that means so much to me. It's people like you, it's bands like yours that make me want to get out of bed every single day and go through every DM I get, every message, and find more new music because it's so inspiring to know that there are still artists out there like you that make this much of an effort and put this much work into what you do. And I
Thank you.
can't thank you enough for it.
Thank you. That's huge. I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much.
300 within the next 365 days, you're all going to be full-time musicians.
Okay.
You don't
I'll break you off if that's the truth.
don't forget who said it first. All right, Ryan of Bleed by Bleed is in stores now. Go pick it up at your local Coconuts, your local Tower Records, your local Circuit City. We will be in touch later on. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
You bet, buddy. Thank you for having me.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Peace.
Later, dude.